Let us put our hands together for our speaker for tonight, all the way from Chicago, Illinois, to talk about white feminists, Sister Brenda Verner. Sister Brenda Verner. There are very few people in America today that really put it to white feminists. And the woman that is at the forefront of that movement is right here with us at the Slave Theater tonight, Brenda Verner. And Sister Verner, I tell you that we picked the right week. We picked the right week. The right week. We hit the lotto this week with you coming in this week. This is the week with this whole feminist movement showing its ugly head. And I'm going to tell you something. You know, there's something spiritual about all of this. And there's a divine intervention here. Because we have been talking about the week that you will come back. And actually, it should have been a few weeks earlier. But you see, that was our plan. But the Creator had a master plan. The Creator knew that O.J. Simpson was out here showing his behind. And he was going to get snagged sooner or later. And you whetted our appetites in April, gave us an introduction to what this issue was really about. Not that many people are talking about it. And I told you then, I said that, don't worry, you have touched a raw nerve in the black community. You touched a real nerve in the black community. It is not what is said so often, but it's what is not being said. And white feminism was on the tip of all of our tongues, and you came to this town and you brought out the pus. You busted the head and gave us a cleansing. And we are so proud to have you back, sister. And all of New York have been waiting on you, calling me, asking me, when were you coming? Calling you, asking you, had I double-crossed you? Because they didn't understand why you had not been here earlier than now. But you are here, and let's give it up for our sister, Brenda Verner from Chicago, Illinois. Brenda Verner.
You know what? I am just overwhelmed here. What did I do the last time I came here? I'll tell you one thing. My phone didn't stop ringing for 2 months. I think every black man in Brooklyn called me. I got 2 proposals. And you know what I was thinking? It's now time to start the National Organization for African American Men. I want to thank you all for the warm reception you've given me. I am just still when you know what? New Yorkers are interesting people to me. I'm married to one. My husband is from Harlem. And when I went away to school, I went to school in Ithaca, New York at Cornell University and Ithaca College. And New Yorkers are always bragging about New York. Have you ever noticed that? You all never stop talking about New York. New York is this, New York is that. And we, people from Chicago, you know, we pretty strong too. So my girlfriends, I used to tell my girlfriends, New Yorkers are just braggarts, you know. But I'll tell you, after coming here last time and experiencing what happened to me on radio and here, I must say the cutting edge issues are right here in New York City. And some of the sharpest minds, I mean collectively, are right here. People seem to be aware more, maybe because this is the cultural center of the United States. But the response that I've gotten from people, you know, I've had a chance to talk. I've spent hundreds of hours on the phone since the last time I was here, talking to different people and getting their perspective on things, because I really want to know what people think. At one point, I thought, I said, am I the only crazy Negro in Dodge? Am I the only person that feels this way? Brenda, are you losing it? Why are all of the black people you know silent? And the question still begs, you know, why are they silent? If I could, I would like to review what happened the last time we were here. We had a chance to talk about Africana womanism, the concept of Africana womanism. I said a few things that made some people unhappy. And believe me, they called. You people talk a lot. You just went and told everybody you knew, didn't you? I was getting calls from South Carolina, all over the place. Feminists, black feminists, accusing me of betraying them. But I told them, I said, I don't know if the culture can stand you all. And it's my intent, I'm sorry. I will not idolize anybody that uses toilet tissue. Do you understand? If you walk and talk and go to the toilet, you're human. And there are no idols that walk and talk and go to the toilet that I'm going to worship. And I don't care who you are. I don't care what your name you've built up for yourself in the media. If you are betraying the people that you come from, and see, I was talking to a sister outside the theater, and I was saying to her, what are we willing to die for? What are we willing to die for? Are we willing to fall for anything, for money? Do you know we've watched black comedians betray their mothers on national television for money? We've been trained over the last 35 years to look at stars and then do what they say do, all for money. And now we're down to the very values by which we live. Have they ever given us enough money to give it up? I am serious. This is an interesting thing. You know, I want you to know that when I decided to come out with this issue, I knew exactly what I was doing and the price that I was going to have to pay. But my situation is, 1, I believe in God. 2, I believe in right and wrong. 3, I have 2 children. What am I going to say to them if I don't stand up against this beast that is trying to demoralize this nation? And what is happening to us is that we are being fed perversion on a daily basis. And you know what? My girlfriend said that they'll feed you caca every day. You know what that word means. And if you get it often enough, you'll acquire a taste for it. So that's what's happening right now to us. And what I'd like for you to notice is that it's on every channel, every talk show host, no matter what color they are, and every Negro who is under the thumb of every white person, they are changing as we speak. They're telling us what we should do, but I'm going to tell you, here's my slogan: black people reject perversion. And I'm going to make the buttons and I'm going to give them out to anybody that'll wear it. Because, you know, I want you to know, the last time I was here, I didn't say this, and I want you to hear it clearly. You know, the majority of white women reject feminism. Somewhere between 75 and 80% of white women reject feminism. But we're talking about a small group of highly educated, well-financed, well-connected, extremely well-organized group of people who are able to influence the media markets of the world, who are able to deliver their message over and over again. And now they've put their people, see, they used us. First of all, let's back up. If I didn't say this before, I want to say it again. We ought to call to order every black man that was in the Congressional Black Caucus that declared white women minority. Talk about the cultural betrayal. Talk about cultural betrayal. You done declared the inheritors of the wealth of this nation minority. I'm scared. And then she done declared herself a victim. You know, you gotta be a victim in order to fight discrimination, so she's a victim. I ain't no victim. I may have been victimized, but you know, black women ain't never went for being victims. As a matter of fact, we sisters in charge. We can run it. And that's what we're going to have to think about, because there's a world movement afoot to take feminism to every nation on the planet. And unless black women, I'll say it again, unless black women decide that they're going to take over leadership of the world's women, we are all doomed. And you know, we are prepared to do that. For the last 750 years, we've been at the bottom. We know what it's all about to be strong at the bottom, don't we? We know how to run it from the bottom, don't we? We'll get right heady from the top. I'm afraid of these people out here. And it's about time African American people learn to be indigenous definitive authorities that know how to negotiate with other kinds of people who hold the same interest. Do you know that there are white people who are just as scared of this perverse movement that's taken over America as we are? And you know what? We can negotiate with them better than any other group of people on the planet. You know why? We have their names, their DNA, and their blood. We got better leverage than any other group of people. And if we'll give up being scared of these people, we can get them to do what we want them to do. You see, one of the interesting things that I find about feminists is that they use intimidation, particularly the lesbians. They come together in a group, and you know, I found out, I used to think that black women weren't scared of anything, but I've seen black women be scared of lesbians. I don't know why I ain't scared of them. Homophobia. Do I look scared of you? But the use of intimidation is a very effective technique that they're using to take over organizations, to Shanghai people's political entities, and to change your mind. You know, people are scared. And the very people that we look to, the people in the Black Studies programs, the politicians, well, let's not look to the politicians, but back to the intellectuals. These so-called intellectuals who say that they are so black, they're blue. I want you to know that one by one, they're falling. And you'll be surprised to find out when you start asking. I mean, everybody that comes here, I want you to ask them how they feel about the feminist movement. And don't take no tap dance. Don't take no tap dance. Now, Anderson Thompson, I know him. He's a good friend of mine. He's a quiet gentleman, but he's tough. But there's going to be some firebrands who coming through here who'll tell you how to be black. They're going to tell you everything, but ask them about feminism. Ask them where they stand publicly on feminism. Ask them what they're teaching in these Black Studies programs. Ask them why they've ignored the whole women's issue altogether. You see, when people's tenure and their paycheck are on the line, we'll suddenly get silent night. So we've got to stop making idols out of Negroes who use toilet paper. And you know what? You gotta, we have to also start looking for the things that will indeed enhance us, and that is wisdom. You know, men are supposed to represent wisdom. Did you know that? The presence of men is supposed to represent wisdom. Men are supposed to impart wisdom generation to generation. Men also represent discipline. They are supposed to be self-disciplined, self-governing entities who raise their children in full subjugation. The problem in the African American community is that men are not exercising wisdom, authority, and discipline. Now, the feminist movement will tell you men are not supposed to be in charge. I'll tell you, black women ain't scared of black men being in charge. You know, because if they get too rough, we know how to deal with the situation. But every place I go to these campuses, I want you to know you all are the only friendly crowd I've ever seen. I'm so accustomed to war, I don't even know how to act up in here. And these people, what they do is tell our young people that they don't need men. Do you know they're telling them that? They're telling them that in the classes where they give them credit and a grade. They're telling them that on their jobs where they have control over their advancement and their money. They're telling them that in the magazines. I opened up Glamour magazine and there was an editorial about why girls don't need to get married to have children. They're telling them this everywhere. There is something perverse about all of this. Now, you know the reason we don't know that they're perverse? Remember, we used to be inside their households. Before the Civil Rights Movement, for about 400 years, we were inside the White household, weren't we? And we knew exactly who these people were, didn't we? And we would tell it generation to generation. And then came integration, liberation. We've been so removed from these people for so long that we begin to think that American media represents us. Maybe we need to have a refresher course in domestic serving so we can get a bird's eye view of what goes on inside these households. Ever since I was a child, domestic women have told about what they've seen. And never once have I heard any of these women talk about how they want to be like these people that they were serving. And now we've got the first generation of middle-class black children from college-educated parents, and what do you get? You see, the word sexism was created to replace the word racism. Women's studies was created to replace black studies. You see? And now they've raised up black feminists to replace the real sister. What we're talking about here is a counterfeit. You know, a counterfeit has to imitate the real thing. It looks like it, it talks like it, but if you listen close enough, you know it's a counterfeit. And what we've got now are black people. At one time, you know, we didn't have them on the other side. But now we can't tell the difference. You know, here's Angela Davis, who was supposed to have been a great revolutionary. The person that when I was a student, formed a Black Student Weekend. We dedicated the first one to black women in 1972. And then we dedicated it to her. Now I guess she became a card-carrying communist, and now she's a card-carrying feminist, and ain't no telling what else. So here we got people who are able to cross the line, you see. They're over here with us, then they're over there with them, then they're over here with us. And because we fall for what I call the cult of black unity, you see, anybody who's black, we'll support them because they're black and come to us and say we should support them because they're black. That's a cult, you see. Anytime you can't question the person who's coming before you and telling you to do what they tell you to do, and they won't stand for any question, that means that they're a god with a little G, or idol with a big I. And we've got a lot of these people. And I think we've become so confused that we can't even tell the difference between them and us anymore. Poor OJ. Caught in his lifestyle. First they caught him in the seat of his pants, and now they're hanging him by his neck. OJ is no different than how many others of black people who have given up their life for their drug of choice, which is WPJ, white pussy juice. Here they are drunk on their drug of choice. Just like any other addict, they stagger away from their responsibilities, their obligation to their family and their community and their culture. They stagger off into the world. They're caught between two worlds. They stagger to and fro between black allegiance and their lust for white satisfaction. They go back and forth, back and forth. And all the time they're telling you, I love you, I hate you, I love you, I hate you, I love me, I hate me, I love me, I hate me. I don't know what it is about this WPJ. I can't tell you that I will ever know what it is about this WPJ. But now we got black women who are drunk on it. And you cannot trust them any further than you can trust that neo-Negro rubber stamp. Now, my challenge to you is, you better ask these people who they are and what they are. You better ask them straight up before you start following behind them. Because the next thing you know, you'll be smelling something you don't like. Because I call it perverse. Any woman that can get used to another woman's and can't stand the smell of her own, what in the world is this? Where are we going? Where are we going? And then you're going to intellectualize, and when your children don't do what they say do, they're going to fail them in their courses. They're going to harass them in their classrooms. They're going to set up the situation to make them look like fools. They're going to tell them that they're not enlightened enough, that they're old-fashioned, that they're suffering from homophobia, that they are suffering from heterosexism, that they are suffering from the effects of wifism. You better find out who's teaching your kids. These people are not playing. Do you understand that? They are taking black people's jobs all across this country. We are in the throes of culture wars and we don't even know it. We are into ideological warfare. They are attacking us, a multilateral force from outside and a multilateral force from within the culture. O.J. Simpson is only an example. They always show the Negro what they'll do to you if you don't act right. Now see, he was one of their best Negroes, wasn't he? He was their best one, man-tan Moreland running through the airport faster than a speeding train. You know, I found myself looking at O.J. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. You know, I wanted to go away, but I kept looking at it, and I kept saying, this is America at its best. Is it not? Here's a man that when you look at his mugshot, and you see the O.J. that we used to know, it looks like two different people, doesn't it? When he doesn't have that please like me, massa look on his face, when he isn't, you know, jamming it up for the white boys who give him millions of dollars for shining, he is a handsome man. He is a handsome. Do you see how intelligent that face looked? I could not get over it. I said, this doesn't even look like the same. And you know, he's recognizable, but it's like those demons left him and say, you on your own. Here's a man who told everybody. When I saw that white boy come out who was his housekeeper, I said, that's it. You know, I was holding out reservation for this brother a long time. I said, now look at this. This is a young white boy running his $5 million house. $5 million house. So I say, O.J. Simpson has never been the best among us, but he is one of us. You see? And you know what? He's not the only Negro who done lost his mind on WPJ. Is he? So we don't have to make him an example because they're doing it already, aren't they? Feminists who have placed themselves in positions to be able to launch their warfare, both spiritual and literal, are now about the perfection of scandalizing black people. You see, their popular culture movement has found a way to stand on the neck and the heads of black people, while at the same time claiming to champion the cause of black people in order to catapult themselves to international prominence. The issue now is wife battering. Now, you would think it would be O.J., but it's now wife battering. He's lost his personal personality and his personal life. He is an issue. And you are supposed to feel about him the way you feel about wife battering. Now, remember when Mike Tyson came up? And don't believe me, Mike Tyson ain't one of my favorite people, but again, it was date rape, don't you remember? And the country went berserk over date rape for how long? On the cover of every magazine. And before then, there was Anita Hill and Clarence Thomas. And it was sexual harassment. And it was over everything. We couldn't hear enough about it. Are we getting the gist of what's going on here? Why is it that they find it so interesting to make not just a scandal out of this issue? How many people have been murdered in America since O.J. Simpson's wife and that boy were killed? What is it about this situation that makes this media go into a feeding frenzy? You know what it is? It's black meat. See, they don't have to exercise any restraint when a black person is involved. They don't have to talk about the semblance of a fair trial. You see on the covers of these magazines, murder. The charge is murder. Did you see it, Sports Illustrated? We saw what Time did to his face in order to try to make him, he was so clean looking, they had to put some dirt on him. You know, they had to dirty up their own favorite Negro to turn the tables on him. So it's interesting that we were watching all of this, and I have not heard black analysis from any quarter of these Negroes talking heads that we see on TV. Have you? I was here in New York watching TV, and I saw a group of people with Koch and another, you know, that New York lawyer who's always on everything. These people were talking, and they were saying, oh, the media hasn't gone out of control. They're doing what they're supposed to do. And this white lawyer said, here we have a black man who's murdered a white woman, and nobody's mentioned the fact that he's black. And here we have a lawyer who has declared O.J. Simpson a murderer on television before trial. And they are very easily saying he's a murderer, aren't they? They don't even hold back, do they? And these feminists started running out of the White House. Did you see them? On the backyard, the front porch, in the kitchen, in the toilet. Talking about how terrible it was that the police didn't stop him from beating this woman. Now, if the police couldn't stop those people who killed John Kennedy, anybody who wants to kill anybody can do it in America. But now it's the police. See, it's a male bashing thing. And you see, people who have lesbian-inspired thought are not interested in any harmonious relationship between men and women. You see, they indict all men, set up a climate of hostility between men and women, which gives them authority over women. But you know, you're not dumb enough to go for it, are you? One of the interesting things about all of this is, you know, when I start talking like this, those very same feminists who for a few seconds before were yelling and leaping and screaming, they would go, and then they go, well, I said, right. See, what we have to do is to organize. For the number of years that we've been here in this country and the number of people that we are the least organized group of people in this nation. We have to give up this cult of black culture worship. You know, culture ain't gonna buy you nothing but another sentence. You see, we have to indeed respect those people who have enough guts to do the things that will enhance the lives of black people. We have to put a high premium on living well, not just living. How often have you heard people, we're in the struggle? I am not struggling. Do you understand me? I'm not struggling with nobody. I don't care what color they are. You see, this brain and this head can make the same amount of money as a brain and a white head or more. So I don't have to be upset with them because they got it. You simply have to do what they did to get it. And don't do all of what they did because you'll be a murderer. But the most important thing is that we understand that we are under mind-molding, mind-bending apparatus all the time. The American education system has been taken over by feminists. The schools in Chicago, and I happen to know this because when I was in the National Women's Studies Association, they had a PK through 12 caucus. And it was at this organization 15 years ago that I heard them talking about taking over the Girl Scouts. It was more than 15 years ago. But we have to understand that if you don't have an organized group that is committed, that you have high expectations from, that have an agenda, and that you're going to exercise that agenda, we will continue to whine and complain. Black men, real men, don't whine. Black women, real women, don't take it. We have to stop all of this, you know, who shot John business. When I was a kid, before we even knew about Marcus Garvey, because I never heard about Marcus Garvey until I think I was 20. When we didn't know about it, we had more self-respect. This whole concept of being enraged at these people is sapping our energy. Do you notice that when the white people in the Western world dropped that bomb on Hiroshima and wiped those Japanese out, can you think of any more prouder people than the Japanese? Wiped them out. You remember those pictures? Now, you know what those people did as soon as they got themselves together? They put on three-piece suits, they learned perfect English, and came over here and submitted themselves to the people who had kicked their behinds. And where are they today? You see? We're right here with it, and we don't have enough wisdom to go after what they know. You see, if we had exercised wisdom instead of black rage, there's no telling who would be on the Fortune 500 corporation list right now, is there? Anybody who encourages us to be angry, irrational people are our enemies. Do you notice that people who are in charge, people who are victors, people who are winners, people who have it, you never notice how calm they are? Because you have to be calm to formulate strategy. Any strategy that's formulated in a raging mind is good for what? And anybody who wants to come before you and tell you, I'll lead you with their raging mouth, what are they good for? See, we have a whole generation of young black people whose teeth have been set on edge by hopelessness and rage. And we can't control them. I saw their effects all the way here. All of that ugly graffiti out there. They've turned their own communities into these ugly camps. And we have no control over them because we fed them hopelessness in the name of black advancement. If we don't have high expectations of our men, we're going nowhere. Do you understand that? If I can't say to my son, I say to my son with his square head, I expect you to learn how to think, to be an independent, productive, intellectual person who is committed to your people and will represent them on the world scene. And if you don't have any idea about diplomacy, if you don't have any idea about protocol, if you don't know how to conduct yourself in public, if you don't know how to talk to other black people, how are you going to do all of that? Some of us believe that we will show our intellect by insulting other black people. That grieves me. And you know, these people who come before us and insult certain segments of the black community routinely, we hear it all the time. We hear it so much we don't even think about it anymore. They don't know that the people that they insult are tolerating them. You see, in the name of black unity. I find it interesting that I don't see, have you ever seen feminists get on television and attack one another? Have you ever seen Asians get on TV and attack one another? Indians, Jews? You know, I just find it interesting that our people have been so well trained, they're just like a mousetrap. All you have to do is stamp the floor and they go off. You know, even if you disagree with another person, you don't have the right to denigrate that person, because when you denigrate that person, you're denigrating all of us. And this lack of genuine respect is what is happening in the name of black intellectualism, in the name of black politics, and in the name of black cultural advancement. Do you know that the majority of the people that we identify as acceptable leadership really hold contempt for the majority of black people? They believe that it is their responsibility to change your mind because you don't think right. And that they have been anointed by their other influences on high to change your mind. I rarely see people who come before the community that respects it, because at some point or another, they always have to show, you know, I used to tell my mother, most black people are answering the white voice that's not in the room. Most black people are saying to white people, see, I ain't like the rest of them. See, I'm different. See? Everything they do, from buying Cadillacs, walking around in pink, purple, and yellow suits, doing all kinds of stuff to say to these white people, see, I'm different, I'm better. You know, I ain't better. I believe the Bible. I ain't nothing. You know what I am? A person who knows where her limitations are. I've come before you with these issues because I live in the black community and intend to stay in the black community. And I know that the black community is under siege. And it's a responsibility of every African American to, one, inform himself. Hosea 5:6, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. It's about the business of informing yourself and turning on that TV. Now let me tell you something else. In 1978, I began to monitor Christian television. I was at, I had graduated from Harvard and I was doing media training. And I started monitoring Christian television. The biggest bugaboo to black people are white Christians. And we've been trained by the liberal left to see them as the boogeyman. It's the liberal left that tells us, see those white people over there? They hate you. The one who got his arm around his shoulder is trying to kill you. If the one over there hates you and don't want to be bothered with you, that's a Southern cracker, fine. But the person who's got his arm around you, telling I got a place for you in my camp, telling me, oh, you're a good, person, and we're going to do things for you. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And that's just what's happened to black women and these feminists. They can no longer tell. Do you know these people think they're right? Now, anytime some white person come to me and tell me to kill my baby, first of all, I have to think, what? This sounds like an old line to me. They'll tell you, you need to have abortion in the name of, because black women are poor. If killing your baby was a reason, being poor was a reason for killing your baby, there wouldn't be nobody in this room. Not nobody. Do you understand that? Because at some point in American history, every black person that came through, some people in this room, were poor, weren't they? And a whole lot of them still are, aren't they? So they value your life based on how much money you can make. And if you can't make money, then your children are not valuable, therefore they should die. And I'll tell you, the reason we see black boys laying in the street is because they're demonized by these feminists, one. American newscasters put them on TV every night to show them that they're the American problem. And three, they allow murder of black young men to happen so that they won't reproduce. Because the older they get, the more babies they'll make. But somehow, we can't think anymore. Money is more important than anything. The love of money. Because all these people who talk about what they want ain't got none. You know, they only choose a few people to make rich. Have you noticed that? And then they find a way. The reason they want black men to marry white women who are rich is because the money goes back into the white world. It goes right back to the mother, right back to her father and her brother. Everybody, you see? And the biggest fear they have is black women and black men with money. Now, I mentioned this earlier today. Do you remember when Mike Tyson and his wife and her mother were the center focus of attention? What was it? It was his money. The very idea that two black women, one of them his wife, should want his money was outrageous to white America. All the talk shows had him on. White people came out of the woodwork talking about how he was theirs. Oh, you beginning to understand what's going on here? They don't want black women with money. We've seen too much. We know too much. You know what'll happen if we had money? You know what'll happen if we had money? We'll start manufacturing things, won't we? Because black women don't stand around looking at you. If you go to Africa, one of the interesting things about those sisters over there, honey, talk about a crew of industrious sisters. And they don't have the money. Isn't it interesting that you haven't heard them talk about O.J. Simpson's wife getting $11,000 a month, living in a $950,000 townhouse, having unlimited credit cards, driving a Ferrari around? Because she was a white, blonde woman, and that's what she's supposed to do, Negro. Isn't that interesting? Remember when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar left his wife and found this white girl he told the world that was the most wonderful thing in the world, hiding a baby up in his house? Girlfriend leaves, gets $2.3 million. Did we hear the press yelling and screaming? I want to know, black men, is it that good? Is it heroin? What is it? You know, I mean, I told my girlfriend, I wish I could be a man for about a week just to see what this is all about. Because I really want to know. Sometimes I want to cry. I was sitting there looking at O.J. Simpson, and I said to my son, don't you ever And you better not ever think it. And if you do think it, do it in your room with the door closed. And I want you to know I can think through doors. The very idea that these people have trained us like monkeys, a self-hating orangutan. I mean, they've got us going, and all we do is whine and cry. Have you noticed that? We whine and cry until the next thing comes along. You notice? We whine and cry, we go up, things calm down until they get the next Negro. Now they got a new Negro in town, one with the baseball team. The fall of an American hero. The sucker wasn't a hero, he was a ball player. You know, I mean, a hero is somebody with courage that does something daring and unselfish for somebody else. $3.5 million a year, yeah, he ain't giving it away. And maybe he's got, you know, maybe we can get all of these people who are addicted to drugs and addicted to WPJ, and we can get them together, and maybe we can figure out what this whole addiction business is all about. Because if we put together all the millions of dollars that these brothers have given to these women, we could have owned this sucker. Do you see how quick American media turned on Michael Jordan? You know why? One, he's married to a black woman. But two, because his parents ran interference with him. You never saw him without his parents. His parents were there all the time, one or both together. And it was their dignity and their demand for respect that kept these people in order. He is the only athlete who has been chaperoned by his parents through his professional career. So the point is that you never stop being a parent. And just when young men need the concerted attention of black men as fathers and black women as mothers, our culture, popular culture, tells them, let them go. You know, between the ages of 13 and 19, they need more attention. They need more focused, you know, time with their parents than any other time in their lives. My son goes nowhere without us. We either take him there or pick him up, or we have another parent that's there. And not to mention that there's white girls lined up all around the block trying to get to my son, and he's 15 years old. He's 15 years old. Do you know there's this whole climate out here through feminism? You can go after him if you want. American TV, that Ricky Lake show, they ought to shoot every Negro that comes on there. And they're telling us there's no difference between, have you seen those stupid looking Negroes sitting up there with those strange looking women? Acting like whores, all of them. If you do not protect something that's valuable to you, then you won't have it anymore. And that's what's happened to us. We have not protected our sons and daughters, and we don't have them anymore. And now we're letting these perverted, low-life, blood-sucking sociopaths educate them. We have the most extensive church network of any group of people in this nation. Do you know it? Do you know that we're the only culture that has not raised up its own church-based education system? If indeed we were to retrain the teachers, you know most of these big churches have enough teachers to man 3 high schools. If we were to turn our attention to educating our own children, half of our problems would go away. But these people are demanding not only to educate our children, but to reprogram us. And you know what? They're being successful. Because some of the arguments that I get from people, astound me. Imagine that we have heard such propaganda from the gay rights movement long enough that black people think that gay issues are the same as black issues. Haven't you heard them on TV jumping up? See, if you repeat something enough in American media, it becomes fact in the minds of the American public. They repeated it over and over and over again. The only black man I heard stand up and say, but no, was Colin Powell. And I guess he had enough guns to back him up. But the rest of these people stood around and said, but no. Here we're talking about people, homosexuals represent somewhere between 1 at the lowest and 4% at the highest of American population. 59% of them are college educated. Over 51% of them make over $53,000 a year. Over 43% of them own property, own businesses, own land. If you went down the list of what they are, how could you dare call them a victim? They are the elite of this society. And what they're trying to do is normalize perverse behavior. Feminists, together with homosexuals, gay rights movement, have bent the minds of black intellectuals in this country. And every last one of them that comes before you on this platform, I want you to ask them point-blank questions. Continue. See, if we don't have enough guts to call these people to order, if we don't have enough guts, you know, because I'll tell you one thing. If a person is a lesbian or a homosexual and they're part of the gay rights movement, they have to admit to you what they are, or else they are no use to the movement. So as long as they come before you and you don't ask them, they play both sides of the fence at once. Now, you know, black people are real polite because we don't like to deal with those kinds of issues, you know? But I was the one in Chicago that asked Lenore Fulani, are you a lesbian? See, that's an acceptable question in America today. You see, it may not still be acceptable in America, in black America, but it's an acceptable question in America today. And if you can't ask that question of these people, the first time she told me somebody attacked her daughter in the subway in New York. That was her response. So the second time, my girlfriend was the host of the show, and I told her, ask her point blank, again, if she's a lesbian. And she says, yes, don't you think everybody should be gay? You see, the New Alliance is an alliance between old communists, new radicals, homosexuals and gays, and the black community. They have the agenda set for you. I said the New Alliance is between the old communists, gays and homosexuals and feminists, and radicals, political radicals, and black people. And they've raised up, their technique all the time is to raise up their own black elite to send into the community to seduce you. And because we love being rebellious, we'll listen to anybody that rails against the white people, and the next thing we know, we following some little, we don't know what it is, down the aisle, you see? We don't know nothing about investigative journalism, although we look at hard copy every day. I don't know what we're doing, but I'll tell you one thing. I intend to organize the black women of America. And you know what? Don't be surprised where you see me. If you see me on Christian television, know that I told you first. I'm going after every black woman, and I'll respect her where she is. If she's in the church, I'll go there. If she's in jail, I'll go there. You see? If she's in the fields, I'll go there. because we have to learn how to make negotiations based on issues. Don't you know these white people are scared of these other white people? These people are scared to death of these perverts. Don't you know that? I travel enough in America to know these people are scared to death. These people are so scared. Do you know, have you noticed that they're electing Republicans all over the place? They might elect Mussolini for president next time, they're so scared. We have to understand that we have had influence on American thought. We have allowed black intellectuals to be manipulated and cajoled by white intellectuals into believing there's only two kinds of thought, liberal and conservative, and both of them are white. What we been here for? What we been observing all this time? There is such a thing as traditional African American thought. Do you know that? Now, you may have been encouraged to forget it over the last 25 years by the black nationalists, but I'm telling you, there is such a thing as traditional African American thought. And we better get back to it. And it's family oriented. Have you ever noticed that? When I grew up, boys did the walls, the windows, the yards, and the floors, and they took out the garbage. This was an understanding. In my neighborhood on Saturday, all the boys were washing windows inside and out. Then they go wash the cars, and then they help their father go do the grocery shopping. There has to be some kind of rhythm return to our lives. There has to be some kind of respectability for self-discipline return to our lives. While the children of these wild liberals have gone absolutely berserk, because I want you to know the people that we're dealing with are the children of the hippies. The free love generation. The junkies of the Western world. You're right. You're right. I was telling somebody, I said, when we were at Cornell, now I don't know how many of you all can remember when those black students took over Cornell with the guns. Well, my husband was one of them. I came the next semester. They should have waited. But I was telling them, I said, don't you know who Bill Clinton and all of them are? And my girlfriend Dingo, I have some girlfriends who've got sharper tongues than I ever thought of having. My girlfriends are so tough. I mean, when we were at Cornell, the stuff that people think of doing now, they wouldn't even think. They wouldn't even think. And I said, don't you know who they are? She said, yeah, I know who they are. She said, those are the same whiteys we couldn't stand when we were in school, and I still can't stand them. They were the ones who were coming to you, giving you drugs. Remember they tried to seduce you into drugs? They're going to show you how hip they are. And then remember how they were supposed to be hip, but they were dirty? They're coming to you filthy, haven't had a bath in a month. And they show you how hip they are by being drunk, laying out on the floor, having sex on the quad. Everybody could see them like dogs. Yeah, these are the people who are in charge now. And their children are coming up behind them. America, you better watch out. Look, I came here to show you tonight why black women have rejected feminism. I have a large collection of antique memorabilia. I've been doing, before I turned into this firebrand, I used to do some research on stereotyping. And I can see the direct connection between what we've been trained to see and how we view ourselves and what is going on now. You know, ever since Bill Cosby went off the air, have you noticed that there hasn't been a show where there have been respectable, intelligent people with a family on TV since then? Now, if this was a white show, there would have been millions of clones, wouldn't there? But as soon as he went off the air, they came back with the monkey show, didn't they? And we're getting bigger and better monkeys. So the question before us is, are we going to give up whining and start our own television stations? Are we going to build our own production companies? Are we going to build up our theaters? Are we going to live on the same level? See, equal means equal to, operating at the same level of, being a part of, at the same quality. It don't mean struggle. Do you understand what I'm saying here? These people know what money is. Until you know what money is, shut up. I never forget. My husband told me when I got my engagement ring, he said, those diamonds are too big. I said, if I was Jewish, would you tell me that? I see, you know, because we used to make all these cracks about what people have. You can have what anybody else has. It's nothing like a made-up mind. If you can't say it, you can't have it. I'm serious. If you can't say it, you can't have it. If you can't say, I'm going to make $10,000 a day, you ain't going to have it. And you can make $10,000 a day. All you have to do is go to business school. Because there are people who deal in $10 million a day. And you giving it to them. If you learn how to control the markets just in the black world alone, you can become a millionaire in a year. Instead of whining, why don't these men and women come together and form small corporations to specialize in the things that they want to do? I do a workshop called African American Men and Women Toward a Healthy Relationship on these campuses, because I go to some of these campuses and the black men and women are not even speaking to one another. And I never forget, I went to University of North Carolina at Asheville. They were not speaking to one another. They hated each other. How does this happen? Well, we were in this room for 5 hours together. By the time it was over, we had formed 4 corporations. They were hugging each other and kissing one another. You know why black people hate one another? They've been trained by white America to believe the next black person is a failure and is going to take you down. And that if you're gonna do well, you have to hit yourself to a rising star, and that star is always a different color than you. So the point is, until black men can give up play as a byword, playing the dozen, playing ball, playing the women, having a magazine called Players, and choose the word work as their byword, and respect one another. Have you ever noticed that you don't see Asian men standing around grinning and laughing with one another? When you see a group of Asian men, they done probably bought the block that your house is on. And the only time you see them smile is when they shake hands on the deal and then they're on. They're not about the business of play. And until we give up what they have trained us to do, we are never going to be effective. I'm going to show you the slideshow. This slideshow I put together especially for you so that you can see the consistent effort over time to demoralize the image in the eyes of black men of black women and in the eyes of black women of black men, and how they have degraded the relationship of love between black men and women. Have you ever noticed that even when black stars are together on the screen, there's no love? That the passion isn't there? Ain't nobody can tell me that white boys don't know that black women have passion for black men. But what they've told black men is that, you know, WPJ is your objective in life. And haven't they gone for it? But the majority of black men are still in the black community. What I challenge you to do is to take it over. And stop letting the bottom dictate for the rest of us what we should be about. Because if they could get out of the bottom, they wouldn't be there. Do you understand? These men come to decent men and try to bring them down to a low level and tell them that you're trying to be white. Like all black people are sleazy and low-life. Until we set standards that we're willing to live up to, until we are willing to, because I'm telling you, this warfare that I'm talking about means that you're going to have to cut off brother and sister. And you know, I come in the full armor of the Lord with the sword. I'm ready to cut you off. Because the body must live. We are a body with an immune system. If we get an infection, if we can't send out the antibodies to kill it, we better cut it off before gangrene sets in. These people are killing us inch by inch. We can no longer stand up for anything. except sleaze. The God of white people and the white world is sex. It's eros. It's the God called eros. And we're being fed it every day, all day. And these people can produce every kind of new kind of disease that you ain't never thought of. They got genital warts now that'll give you cancer. They got all kinds of stuff they have not even telling you about. And our kids are sitting there before those TVs with these older men, salacious saliva drooling down their mouths while they turn women into things, into body parts. You cannot love a body part. I want you to know, in my mind, that black men are the sleeping giants of the Western world. I believe that black men are going to rise up. You know why? Because black women are not going to stand for them to hold back anymore. It is difficult to live this life even when everything's going for you. But when American media turns against you and makes you the demon and makes you the most terrifying image in the eyes of not only white people, but black people, you are living under a kind of duress that nobody else knows. Now, what we have to do is to say that decent men have to stand up and run it. And decent men are going to have to tell indecent men where to go. Because if decent men do not protect their sons and daughters and their women, we might as well sign ourselves into voluntary slavery again. We have nothing to look forward to. We have not gone so far down the road that things cannot be changed. Children change their behavior when they're loved. Men change their behavior when they're respected. Women change their behavior when they're cherished. I'm going to do the slideshow, and then we'll have a short time for discussion. I know you all have something to say. Well, the people who are in charge to move the stuff so we can do the slideshow, you can come and do it.